why am I going to do Vedic meditation? And I might do a whole episode on this, but I'll paraphrase it in here. Well, I'm going to become a Vedic meditation teacher. And that the reason why is because although I have One Giant Mind teacher certification and have taught that technique for years, it's the same technique really, but the mantras which underpin the way that the technique is practiced, because it's a mantra-based practice, they're customized mantras, and there is a globalized community of people when you get initiated into or taught how to practice Vedic meditation. You're given your own custom mantra. When you have that mantra and you invest in that tradition, the tradition gives back. You have teachers all around the world, Vedic meditation teachers, transcendental meditation teachers, of which you can go and attend and participate, free weekly group meditations to stay consistent and do advanced learning courses and whatnot through that tradition, through that whole cohort of teachers that have been embodying this wisdom for decades in some cases. And the wisdom is the most profound wisdom that I've learned through the Vedic tradition, wisdom that stems from the Yoga Sutras of Maharishi Patanjali, the wisdom that comes from books like the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, the Puranas. That there are so many. There's the Upanishads, which is a series of stories, and pretty much the oldest living tradition and the most potent wisdom. So Joe Dispenza is amazing, and a lot of his wisdom has come from Vedic wisdom. Let's say Deepak Chopra was a student of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who founded TM, which is Vedic meditation, just in another legal term. And I have never studied something that's felt as true as what I've learned through Vedic wisdom. And what I teach through the Art of Fulfillment and the advanced courses that I run, all the models and everything have been influenced by Vedic wisdom. And I remember when I learned it for the first time in 2017, when I learned to meditate, and 2018, I really dove into an advanced course that had 6 retreats over the year, over the 12 months, and then did it again, and then did even another advanced course, which had another 6 retreats. And the wisdom that I was learning just felt true. And it was the first time I ever had an experience of hearing something that didn't make sense to me, because the wisdom directly through the Vedic tradition can be quite cryptic, because it's like I'm looking for a particular word. It's like head exploding. There's an actual normal phrase for what I'm trying to say. But it's overwhelming for the mind, because it's using the mind to lose the mind. And the wisdom is quite cryptic and advanced. And the wisdom that I teach is a powerful, it's not just Vedic wisdom, but it's very informed by Vedic wisdom. But even though it was cryptic, I never learned something before that felt, these are true. I can feel that they're true. And I'd learnt from Dr. John Demartini before, who's like, teaches the same philosophy in like a really intellectual way. And because he was teaching it so intellectually, I didn't feel it was true, because the resonance of the way in which it's taught has a sensory impact, where there's that gnosis experience. Gnosis, that Greek word of to know something at a feeling level. When you hear something 100 times, but it finally drops, you're like, now I get it. That's a gnosis, like Gnosis. And all of what I was learning just felt like gnosis, like a knowing. So I've gotten more from the Vedic tradition than I have from any other body of knowledge, even though what I've studied is quite broad and I've gone deep into a lot of what I've studied. Bottom line is, it feels like an honor and a privilege to have qualified to be able to do this course. Not everyone can do this course that I'm doing, this teacher training. If someone was to go through and study the required prerequisite courses and retreats, it would take 3 years minimum for someone to be able to, from starting to meditate to being qualified to be considered to go. And I've been meditating for about 7 years, and I've done all the things multiple times. And so I'm stoked. And there isn't a technique in the world that I feel has had more of a meaningful impact in my life than Vedic meditation. And so I am stoked to be becoming a Vedic meditation teacher, because what I also noticed, and this is going to be the last little piece before I wrap this up, is that teaching the art of fulfillment and the body of wisdom that I do is so supportive, because it makes everything make sense, what I teach. And you can ask anyone that's graduated and gone through any of my workshops that I run, whether it was the art of courage or the art of fulfillment, now that I've changed the name to that, or my advanced spiritual retreats, or the heart's prayer. It's all just truth. It can't be contradicted, because it's just true. I didn't make it up. I just contained it and packaged it to be very easy to understand. But it's all just truths. They're just true. And even though I was giving people truths through these workshops, to understand it and to have that, I get it, this makes sense, doesn't mean that it's embodied. The way to embody universal truth it can be embodied in lots of different ways, but my experience is that the most potent form and way of embodying it is through Vedic meditation or transcendental meditation, synonyms. And there is, like, if someone gave me $1 million and was like, hey, which is the question I ask guests if I get guests on the podcast, as you guys know, if I ask myself the same last question, I'll give you someone comes, gives you $1 million for you to give them the most potent tool or piece of advice you could possibly give, what would that be? Practice Vedic meditation. Because the actual practice expands our awareness. That awareness expansion, it also helps us to process stress and become more connected to the insight that comes from that witness waking up within. And that's where we can make aligned decisions in our life. We get to actually see what's happening and open. That's like waking up. I had an awakening because I can see now. And I was stuck in the matrix. Well, when we actually can get some altitude, we can witness what's true. We actually awaken the capacity for free will, because most of us are stuck in patterning and we don't actually notice what we're doing. And that's how I was living my life until meditation woke me up. And there is nothing that's been a bigger gift for me in my life or made my life more fulfilling, meaningful, and enriching than that practice. And so when I get back, come learn in person. It must be done in person. Come learn to meditate with me. I'd love it. It'd be such an honor.